Thank you for coming. Ellie Diener has been teaching cooking for more than 30 years. She has had her own cooking school, served as the consumer affairs consultant for Roach Brothers and Sudbury Farm supermarkets, and has authored a food column in a local newspaper. She has also produced and appeared on Ellie's Food Line, a cable TV series, and for 5.5 years served as the featured chef on In Your Interest segments on WHSH-TV, the home shopping channel. For the last several years, Ellie has presented lunchtime seminars and team-building events for companies, programs, for organizations, private cooking lessons, and in-your-home cooking classes, which are perfect for bridal showers, birthday parties, bachelorette parties, or girls' night out. Ellie is also the author of 2 cookbooks, From Ellie's Kitchen to Yours and So Easy, So Delicious. Many of today's recipes are from these books.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me back here at the Weston Library. I will mention one thing right before we get started. Last year I was here and I was cooking right in the same spot, right under the fire alarm, and I was using a wok, and the alarm went off, and the Weston Fire Department came in the middle of the class. But everybody was patient. They wanted those samples, so they stuck around. Almost everybody stuck around. So I thought, well, this time, where I knew that it was going to be taped, we couldn't take that chance again. So I have prepared everything in advance. However, I will walk you through it in great detail. And the subject, as most of you know, those of you who've signed up, is quick and easy holiday hors d'oeuvres and desserts. So hopefully you'll get some good ideas that you can use throughout the holiday season, and some even throughout the year. And if you have questions during this session, please feel free to raise your hand, ask me, and I'll be very happy to help answer them for you. So we're going to start off, we're actually going to do the recipes in the order in which they appear on these recipe sheets for you. And the first thing is called pine cone cheese spread. And I'm just going to get it out of my cooler here. And so basically, as I said, it is called a pine cone cheese spread, but sometimes it ends up looking more like a porcupine when I do it. But basically, it's a cheese spread. All the ingredients are right there. It's a cold packed cheddar cheese, and we're using the one that has a little port wine in it. And so it's one of those containers, half a container of cream cheese, and then a tablespoon of butter, and some horseradish, sherry, and dry and Worcestershire sauce. And you can certainly change that to reflect your own flavors, you know, your own tastes. You can change those amounts very easily. And we're going to start by shaping this into what I hope will look like a pine cone. But as I said, sometimes it looks like a porcupine. And what I'm going to have to do, I have learned, is sort of shape it like this, and then I'm going to have to take off my gloves to put the nuts on it. But I have washed my hands, so don't worry. Because it's just almost impossible, it seems, to use to put those nuts in without the gloves. So I'm going to get rid of those. And here are my pecans. So we're going to be using pecans and different crackers to serve it with. And this is something that's, what you do, by the way, is use the sort of sculpted side of the pecan this way. And these are going to be standing up all along here. And so you save the ones that are, I'm going to have to put my glasses on to make sure I see them well. So you save the ones that are kind of small for baking, that you have to chop up anyway, and you use the more perfect looking halves to go like this. And of course, the closer you make these, the more it's going to look like a pine cone. But when you're bending over a low surface like this, you don't make them quite as close. And then the stem is going to be some fresh parsley. And you can also, one of the nice features is that you can make this days ahead and just keep it chilled in the refrigerator. you could also shape it into a traditional cheese ball and chop nuts, put around it. And it makes a nice gift. If you're going somewhere and you're looking for a gift, you can buy a pretty cheese plate or some type of, any type of vessel that you like to put this in or on, and bring it already done. But never put the nuts on till right before you're going to serve it. Otherwise, they tend to get soggy. Now here I'm cheating a little bit. A couple of these were broken, but you can't see them if they're behind some of the others. Now I'm going to have to look. So far, does it look at all like a pine cone? Yes. Getting there? Okay, good. And once we put the stem, the parsley, it'll look much better. And once I was doing a corporate team building event, and a lot of the guys had this as one of the recipes in their group. So they made it was near Super Bowl time, and they made it look like a football. And they put goalposts, they used pretzels and toothpicks and all kinds of things. It was very creative. They won a prize. So you can do a lot of different things with it. So we're going to just put a few more of these on, and then we'll use some crackers and just try to get, let's see how he's looking. Yeah, well, I said it looks more like a porcupine from this angle, but either way, we'll put a couple more on here, and then I'm going to put the parsley here, which is right here. So then you'll see what the finished kind of product looks like. So these will be our stems. And I want to mention one thing to you about fresh parsley. Do you all know that you can keep it for a long time in the fridge? I know many people feel that when they buy, they hate to invest big investment, in a bunch of parsley if they're only going to use a teaspoon or two. So what I suggest is that you buy it, rip off the real thick woody stems. The rest of it you can keep. It can be in lengths like this, not like that, say like this. And you wash it and spin it dry in your salad spinner, wrap it in paper towel, and put it in a plastic bag. And it will last for at least 10 days in your refrigerator. So that way, if you have a recipe that, you don't know what's coming up, you can also use it for decorating other things. And if you find when you approach that 10-day mark that you haven't used it, you can chop it either by hand or on the food processor and then freeze it. And so when you take it out, it doesn't look as attractive for garnishing, but I always have frozen parsley for salad dressings or marinades or soups, so that you can really get a lot of mileage out of that 99-cent bunch of parsley. So now we're going to put some crackers around this, and later you're going to be able to sample this. And so I hope you'll enjoy it. Does anybody have any questions about this? No? Seems pretty easy, right? Yep. And so we'll put these crackers around, and then you'll be able to sample, as I said, later. And I even have this little spreader that looks like acorns. So we'll put that right there. And yes, you have a question?
So for how many would this serve?
I never like to give, the question asked was how many people would this serve? I never like to give an exact answer because it may be, if it's your only one hors d'oeuvre, obviously it's not going to serve that many. If you're having several different things, it would probably just be one of many things that it would serve, go further. But you can, it's like a half pound. It's about a half pound cheese ball. And often recipes call for a pound. So you may want to double it, okay? Depends again on the size of your crowd. So here we have all our crackers, and so this is what the finished product looks like, okay? So you'll all be able to try that later, as I said. And if we need to refill those, we have plenty more crackers. Okay, so the next recipe is mozzarella, a tomato, and basil kebabs. And these are fun. They're very easy. Now, I will tell you that I use these itty-bitty mozzarella balls. They're called pearls. Aren't they the cutest things? Because I wanted to use frilly toothpicks. I'll just show you what the container looks like. They come like this. They're not marinated, however. And if you want to certainly boost the flavor, you could marinate them. Larger ones you can buy already marinated. But these have not been marinated, and they are really simple. I actually prefer even smaller grape tomatoes, which are generally available. These are the smallest I could get. So on these picks, we have a cherry, a little grape tomato, a piece of fresh basil, and a small mozzarella ball. Or if you buy a little bigger ones, you could cut them in half, because when they're on small toothpicks like this, it's like one mouthful. And so that way you get all the flavors together. And the reason I didn't marinate them is sometimes it gets a little drippy, and I didn't want people to, to have it drip all over their clothes, whatever. So you can make that decision yourself. But you could certainly marinate them in olive oil and garlic and a little maybe balsamic or whatever vinegar you like, any flavors that you enjoy. And they make a nice little hors d'oeuvre for any holiday. Anybody have any questions about those? You could all do that, right? You could even have, if you have children or grandchildren at home, that would be a fun thing for them to do too. And let's see, our next hors d'oeuvre is roasted peppers on bruschetta. And this is one of my favorite things. Excuse me, and you're all probably saying, that doesn't look like bruschetta to me. Well, it isn't. These are the little Athens, I think is the company. Yep. Excuse me, little phyllo shells. And they've only been around in most of the markets the last few years. But I love them, and I checked before, and they are for one, I think they're 15 calories a piece and a half a gram of fat, whereas bruschetta is bread. And so what I used to use before this, and I thought this would just be more festive for this time of year, is to buy a thin baguette and cut it and then brush each piece with oil and bake it for about 5 minutes. Often I use a garlic infused oil, some that I have infused myself. Do that, and then you can use that. But this at a party is easier. You don't have the peppers, going all over the place, and it's also pretty much one, depends how much you open your mouth, whether you want, if it's one biteful or two. Depends how you eat. But anyway, in one of these, as you can see, I put a little sprig of parsley. It was a little labor intensive to do it on all of them. But this is a wonderful mixture, and I'm going to show you from the beginning. This is what the roasted pepper actually, this is a raw pepper. This is a roasted pepper. So what I did was take several peppers. I had washed them first, put them on a cookie sheet, and broiled them, and kept turning them every few minutes, so that probably took 15, 20 minutes till all the surfaces were pretty black. And then I let it sit for a while. Years ago, they'd say to put it in a paper bag. I generally, you don't have paper bags too much anymore. You take a plastic bag, or I just let them sit for a while, and then cut it with a sharp knife, and the skin peels right off. I generally cut it in half, scoop out the innards, all the seeds, and that skin will peel right back. So it's very easy, and then dice them into whatever size pieces you'd like. I made them rather small since I wanted them to fit in there. And it's also got olive oil, balsamic vinegar, fresh garlic, some little capers, salt and pepper. I think that's it. And these you can make days in advance, which is great. If you're having guests, it's nice to have anything, as we all know, there's enough last minute stuff to do. And these little phyllo shells, you could eat them directly after they've been defrosted out of the box, or I prefer the taste of having them been baked a little bit. So I bake them for about 6 or 7 minutes, empty, and let them cool, and then we fill them with this. So does anybody have any questions about that?
How long do you bake them?
For about 6 or 7 minutes. I think on the box it says 5 to 10 minutes.
Where could you find these?
You find them in the frozen food section in the supermarket. I got these actually at Roach Brothers. I know if Roach Brothers has, in Sudbury, or actually maybe Sudbury Farms, but almost every market has them now, particularly at this time of year. Okay, you can also put chicken salad or crab meat in it. You could put a dessert. In fact, the recipe on the back of this package has little bits of, you could use some of those little pearl mozzarella balls and put sun-dried tomatoes like in oil and season it, put that in there. You could put, they have a recipe for mini peanut butter phyllo pies. You could even put just Nutella. I'm a big Nutella fan. You'll see that today. A couple of the desserts have Nutella in them. But you could put almost anything you like in them, even a little bit of fruit, and a pipe with whipped cream on top, or use a nice spread and use a pastry bag with a star tip, and that would really be pretty. Yes, did you have a question? Oh, you're just agreeing. Okay. Yes.
I just want to know if they're seasoned, your shells.
No, they're very plain. They have. I think that they're probably just flour and water. Let me see what the ingredients are. It just wheat flour, water, cornstarch, canola oil, some gluten, a few other little goodies, a couple of preservatives.
Yeah.
But not much fat, obviously.
Wow.
Or I don't think they're too high. There's a nutritional breakdown. Yes.
You peel the peppers after you put them in the bag. Why do you do that? Couldn't you use it without?
I did these. I did not even. It's just if you're in a hurry, because the bag will sort of cause little steam, so the shells will the pepper's skin will come off more rapidly. That's all.
Do you have to peel them? Like, I mean,
Well,
is
I
it
personally,
different?
it doesn't taste good, and also once they've got this black on them, it kind of sticks out. It's not tasty. You really need to peel them. Yeah, and in the fall I use orange and yellow, or orange, yellow, and red. At St. Patrick's Day, you could use green, or for Christmas, red and green peppers, whatever you want. Any other questions about that? Okay. The other thing, peppers, I should have brought some bigger ones to show you, but peppers make wonderful containers for dips, and you have to find one that will stand on its own, that usually 4-lobed, which this is, but generally I would use a bigger pepper. And I have a little knife at home called a V-cut knife, which just goes in and out, and then you end up pulling out the seeds and the ribs and whatever, and it's a great vehicle to hold all kinds of dips. So that's very pretty. And if you don't have one of those knives, you could just use a paring knife and do that. In fact, I can show you right now. Basically, and if the pepper does not have 4 lobes or does not stand up straight, you just cut off a little bit on the bottom so that it will stand. So let's see, this is like a Pops Extra. I just thought of it. So I figured I'll show you because it really adds a lot to, rather than serving a dip just from a bowl. So now, go like that, and you see you have that pretty edge. But this, as I said, is a rather small pepper for that. But you pull everything out, and then you put your dips in there, and you can use a couple of different colored ones, and it looks very pretty. And actually, this is even pretty like this, the top. Some of them have long stems, so you can put that along that. So we could use that as a decoration here, too. Okay? With a little sunburst. Okay, now we're going to go on to shortcut cannolis. How many of you like cannolis? Maybe I should reverse it. Is there anybody that does not like cannoli? Okay, great. Then I guess I've picked a good dessert. This group everybody seems to like it. Well, we're going to make shortcut cannolis. One thing, I like cannolis too, but I will never order them at a restaurant or a bakery where they're sitting already stuffed. The shell must be crispy as far as I'm concerned. Some places you go and it's sitting in the case all day. So this sort of alleviates this problem. I'm going to get the filling out. This is our filling for the shortcut cannoli. So basically we're using cannoli filling that we've made with ricotta cheese or ricotta, whichever you prefer to call it. And we're using the whole milk ricotta or regatta. We're going to put some in both sides. I have strawberries for you to dip into this. And you'll see in a second what we're going to do. So basically, this is like having a cannoli, but you don't have to have a whole cannoli. A lot of people don't want a whole cannoli. They say, oh, it's too fattening, it's too rich. And this is something can be made well in advance at home. So we start off with wonton wrappers. And I was thinking about it when I was making these a couple of nights ago, that it's an interesting combination because wonton wrappers are Asian and these are Italian. But, wonton wrappers can be used for multiple things. And this is the way the package, they come like this. And I will show you what they look like, each one. And if you can't find wonton wrappers, you could use large egg roll wrappers and cut them in fourths. And what we're going to do, you don't want to keep too many of them exposed too long because the air dries them out. So you cut them with either a knife or scissors on the diagonal. I've used a pasta wheel, so you get a little bit of a decorative edge. Can you all see that? And so these get fried in oil. I did it in a wok. And I'll tell you, I timed it because I wanted to see how long it would actually take so that I could tell you that. I set it up like an assembly line in my kitchen. I have a wok that I put a few, I'd say at least 2 inches of oil in. And then next to it, I have my cookie sheet with paper towels on top to drain them. And let's see, well, I guess I better move this over here. And so I cut a lot of these in advance, and then I put them right into that hot oil. And I use this like an Asian spider that you would use in a wok, but this is easier to wash. You can put this in the dishwasher. And I do 4 or 5 of these in the oil at one time, pull them out, put them on that paper towel lined cookie sheet. And once they're cool, I use a little strainer and a spoon, and I go like this and put some sugar on them because they don't have that much taste by themselves. And then I put them in a tin. I personally love tins to keep cookies or something like this, anything that I want to have stay crisp. So I made these 2 days ago, and I put them in a tin like this, and they will keep for a few weeks, literally. So it's a wonderful recipe to have, particularly at the holidays when everybody's so busy, because you could make those, they took about 45 minutes, that's what I started to say, from start to finish. And then after they were layered, I used a couple of cookie sheets, and then I sugared them and put them in the tin. And sometimes when you take them out of the tin, you'll find you may have to put a little more sugar on them. But, and the filling is really simple. It is, as I said, the full-fat ricotta cheese, confectioner's sugar, and vanilla. And you mix that. I use my KitchenAid. If you don't have one, any mixer, any electric mixer, you really beat it for about 5 minutes. And then you can refrigerate that for a couple of days. And to make it look more attractive, on the top, let's see, I have some grated pistachios. Here they are. To put, I thought I'd show you a couple little toppings. You put a little bit of grated pistachio on top, or you could put sprinkles, or I was going to say jimmies in Massachusetts. Those of us who are Massachusetts natives, we know jimmies. If you're not, you call them sprinkles. Or you can use orange rind or lime rind. How many of you know what this is? Or can anybody tell me? Yes? Yeah, or it's actually a microplane. It's a little different from a zester. No, it does zest. That was a great answer. It does zest. However, most people know of it as a microplane. A zester does have little, it's usually a tool about this size, and it has 5 or 6 little holes on the end, and you go like that, and you get the zest. Well, I used to use a zester until I heard about microplanes. And I bought the microplane originally to do some cheese, like Parmigiano or Romano cheese, so I could get it nice and pretty fine. But then I discovered that this does a much better job than a zester, because zesters give you long little pieces of rind, and then you've got to chop them. But this does a one-shot deal. So we're just going to put a little zest. This is a clementine. It might not be quite as good as with a regular orange, but it gives you some color and a little bit of flavor. So you probably can see. I'll try to hold it up. Can you all see that? Yeah. So the fillings are the same, so you can try whichever you prefer. Oh, I was supposed to put strawberries around there. Oh my goodness. Let's see. I've got to move some of those away so we have room for our strawberries. So you can use this as a fruit dip as well. instead of just using the wonton wrappers. It can be used as a combination, and it's a very pretty presentation. So it's something, if you're looking for something you want to make that's not last minute, you can make the cannoli shells early in the week or a week before. You make the dip a day or two before. It'll keep in the fridge. And have some fruit, and then you can bring it somewhere and assemble it there. Or if you're serving in your own home, that's fine too. God bless you. So here are pretty, our strawberries. Actually, a few of them, they're not quite as red as usual, but I searched, let me tell you. When you're looking for something like that, you don't always find exactly what you want. Now I have some little frilly toothpicks. Well, when you taste them, you'll be able to see. But isn't that a pretty platter, pretty presentation? And I can almost guarantee that wherever you go, people will not have had this before, unless they've attended one of my classes or demonstrations. Yes?
I was wondering what kind of flour the wonton wrappers are made out of. Are they rice or?
I don't know. Let's see what it says. Enriched wheat flour, niacin, reduced iron, thiamine, mono, something you can look at it, riboflavin, water, sugar, wheat gluten, vinegar, eggs, egg whites, and cornstarch. They also are low in calories. They are 8 wrappers is 160 calories, so that's 20 calories for each wrapper. So each half is 10 calories, plus the oil.
In what section do you find them?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. This lady asked, what section do we find these in the market? In the produce department, and usually near the Asian produce.
And I know you can get them in rice.
Oh, really?
Wrappers, yeah.
Oh, good.
I know I go to the H Market in Burlington. and they have
Oh,
everything there.
oh, you're right. You're right. Oh, thank you for, right.
Or
Oh, that's,
also Vietnamese rolls mixed with the rice.
yes, yep, the little spring rolls or something like that. Absolutely. So, you know, now there's so many of these things available almost everywhere. So that's good. Thank you for offering that information. So does anybody have any questions about these? When you first set it up, you know, and do it, you feel like, oh my goodness. I will tell you, don't make them, I'm glad I remembered to tell you, don't make them the day you're having guests, because your house will reek of oil. Even if you open up the windows, whatever, you know, so I always make them beforehand. And I also am a person who likes to do things well in advance. As I get older, I become more and more organized, and I try to do things in stages. So I make these several days in advance. I made these on Friday, but sometimes I'll do it a week ahead, because if they're in a tin, they will keep beautifully. And don't freeze it in the tin. You can, but you know, it's not necessary. So it did, as I said, it just took 45 minutes.
I think you ought to make special mention of your granddaughter.
It doesn't take any longer than making a batch of cookies, because that usually takes at least 45 minutes. Okay? Alrighty. And the last dessert that we're making, which is one of my all-time favorites, is whenever I have an egg yolk left from something, I always save it. I save it in a little Tupperware midget, they call them, the little, and I keep it in my refrigerator. So, oh, it's time to either make butter cookies with my egg yolk, or I make a facial mask with it. So the guys here, I don't think you're going to be too thrilled about that, but you can do it. You just rub the yolk all over your face, and you leave it on for about 5 minutes. Go in the shower, and it comes right off. You know, you just scrub it off, and it leaves your skin feeling wonderful, and no calories. So, and it's much less expensive than a mask that you would buy at a store. But if you want something that's tasty and that everybody can enjoy, then you want to use you want to make these sliced butter cookies. And they are, I'm sure you're going to agree, at least I hope so, delicious. And this is what they look like once you bake them. They're just completely plain. Now, when we make the dough, I know it by heart because I've made them for so many years. It's a ½ a pound or 2 sticks of unsalted butter and 3/4 cup of sugar. And then with that same 3/4 cup, you're going to use that times 3 to get 2 1/4 cups of flour, that 1 egg yolk, and a teaspoon of vanilla. It's all written there. And you shape it, I roll it right on my counter into 4 logs about this thickness. So you don't have to use Pillsbury cookies that you buy in the store, which might be wonderful. I've never purchased them, to be honest, but they have chemicals in them, and they have more sodium or more sugar or whatever. So this way, and if you are on a gluten-free diet, you can use a gluten-free flour, I'm sure. I personally have not done it, but I'm sure you could find one. So you get it depending on the thickness that you make. This is the size. When they bake, some of them are a little smaller, some are a little bit bigger. You'll see I say they grow a little bit, so that's an example. And you can make them, as I said, whatever way you want, and you refrigerate them for up to several days. I take the 4 rolls, put them in a Ziploc bag, and keep them in the fridge. Or if I'm not sure when I'm going to do them, I'll freeze them. And then whenever I feel like making them, I take them out, let them sit. They don't have to be completely defrosted, and slice them. And you can make them as thick or as thin as you want. And I've done these with my grandchildren. They love them. They can put little sprinkles on. So with this one basic cookie, I want to show you some of the things that we've made with one cookie recipe. I took one I just started to show you. After it's cooled, I've dipped about 1/3 of it in melted chocolate. And you can use the chocolate chips, but I have a giant bar that I buy at Trader Joe's, the bittersweet or the dark chocolate. I personally prefer that. And I forgot to add a drop of oil to the chocolate. Then it would be a little bit shinier. Then what I've done is taken that particular one while the chocolate's still wet and dipped it into colored sprinkles. That's another variation. Another variation is to dip it in chopped nuts. And then we have some that just have plain sugar on them, like red or green. Some have little Christmas trees on them. There's a whole bunch of them for Hanukkah. Instead of making the cutout cookies, I've used some blue and white sprinkles, and I've used silver sprinkles. Yellow doesn't show up as well. And then some of you may be saying, what is that one? Well, this is the piece de resistance. This is a Nutella sandwich. Are you all familiar with Nutella? And I don't work for Nutella. But most people love Nutella. It's a chocolate nut mixture, which was very popular in France and in Israel. It's used for crepes all over the world. And of course, people I like it like that. But anyway, so I've taken 2 of those. You use 2 outside ones, and you spread a little Nutella in between and close them, and then sprinkle them with confectioner's sugar. And I saw those at a very fancy Italian bakery a few years ago, and I said, I can do this, Oh, which reminds me, speaking of Nutella, I didn't tell you about Nutella rangoons with the, almost forgot, with my cannoli wrappers or wonton wrappers. What you do, I'm going to show you how we do one of those, because a rangoon is a little bit different. We take a whole wrapper. Let's see. Oops. Okay, so we have one wrapper. When I say wrapper, I mean the wonton wrapper. Then we take a little Nutella and put a little bit in the middle here. Ooh, I don't want to get it. I'm going to put a glove on. I don't want to get my finger full of Nutella. I think I have another glove here. If you weren't here, I would lick it off, but I can't do that. So we put a little Nutella right in the corner, like this. It's probably about 3/4 of a teaspoon, I'd say. And you wrap it up, roll it up like this. And then you take a little bit of water and touch the tip with the water, and then you go like this, and you put it seam side down into that oil. And if you don't have a wok, by the way, you could use a large pot filled with a couple of tablespoons, a couple of inches of oil. So you do it on one side, and when it starts getting golden, you flip it over. But always seam side down. That will keep it closed. And you end up with one of these, with a Nutella rangoon, and you sprinkle confection sugar on top of that. Now, in addition to Nutella, the other night I said, I'm going to try it with peanut butter. I've never done peanut butter. pretty good if you like peanut butter. And then I was telling my sister about it this morning, and she said, well, what about chocolate peanut butter, which we like? But there's also, she said there's jalapeno peanut butter, and there's all kinds of, but the reason I say you have to have a thick kind of consistency so it doesn't leak out the ends. And for crab rangoons, it's basically the same. I have, by the way, I've written 2 cookbooks, as Titania said before. And in one of the books, this is my first one, From Ellie's Kitchen to Yours, and this is the second, so easy, so delicious. There's a recipe for crab rangoons, which is pretty much the same. While I think of it, since I went to that, I have a monthly newsletter, which you're all invited to sign up for. It's complimentary. There's a pen and a little clipboard here, so you're welcome to sign up for that. And I have a website. It's just my name. It's ellie@elliediener.com. And it's on your information. But as you see, this is being taped today for Weston Cable. So I want those people, those of you at home, to be able to look up things on my website or contact me if you'd like. So I think I've said everything that I've wanted to say about these things. Does anybody have any other comments or questions? How many of you would like to sample these things? I hope all of you. While we're talking, I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to tell you that hope that I've given you some ideas. And of course, all these things are kind of jumping off points. You may say, oh, gee, I have this filling that I think would be great in this or great in that. So feel free to improvise and add your own signature to all these different things. Okay? Okay, so again, thank you all for coming, and thank you very much.